Hey, what is going on, guys? Jeff here again today. Now, this is the second part in my opinions on how to become a better FPS game player in general. Now, in the last video, I talked about the key to practicing and whatnot, things like that. Now, a lot of people play Call of Duty predominantly for their favorite shooter, only shooter, things like that. People that can only afford one game a year play Call of Duty a lot because they can play the game for ages and ages and ages, and it does get boring, but, in the end, it's COD that you come back to play. I mean, even for me, after a full year of one Call of Duty being out, you always come back to COD as that solid FPS that I always play. Some people may pick Battlefield, and they're like, yeah, that's fine for you, you're a Battlefield player. I've got nothing against people that play Battlefield. I quite enjoy playing that game as well, but just to clarify this so there's not a big war on that. But FPS games in general, right? Besides practicing constantly and constantly and constantly, is a basic of what I've played. I've been playing games for about 10 years now, and that's 2/3 of my life personally. And over that time, they say, was it 10,000 hours it takes to become an expert at something? I've played probably roughly 6,000 hours on games alone, and that's quite a long time. That's a few years worth in hours. So I know, I don't want to boast or anything like that, but I know how to play games generally well across the board. It's not just things like COD and Battlefield. I have competitive knowledge. I don't pub stomp in Call of Duty at all. I never like spawn trapping and things like that. I'd rather go around and get kills on myself on my own. I like to, in public matches, which is what most people play, I like to just slow on my own and go for high kill streaks. I don't like spawn trapping. I hate that idea. Yes, it takes skill, but I think it takes a lot more skill to get things like a solo 30 gun streak on its own instead of having 6 people on your team keeping the enemy in one spot at all times. I like to mix it up. I like to rush spawns occasionally to flip it. It gets you on your feet and moving around a lot of the map, like I do in this gameplay here. This is a chem strike on Stonehaven. It was the first game of Call of Duty I played in Saturday morning, and I got a chem and I move around the whole map. I don't just stay in the one spot playing. I go from B dom to C dom to A dom to trapping a little bit in B dom, then back up. But I move around the whole entire map. I don't just sit in the one spot, and that's what makes it fun for me. When you're at a level where you can kill people relatively easily, you know what's going on. It's fun to just try something new, get out and moving in the game. Play smart, but don't sit in one half of the map for the whole time. I think it's more of a challenge and more fun if you do it this way. But also getting better at FPSs, things that, the top 3 things that I think would make you a good FPS player is consistency, not tactics, but being able to play smart. That shows in most competitive players. They have the ability to play smart constantly. In competitive games you're always thinking about making plays and getting those extra points you need. There was a game of Strike Zone Domination I was playing on the weekend with a couple people, some teams and some other competitive players. We were doing a 4s scrim, and what happened was it was about 60 to 60 in domination. It was a really close game, and then we took it away in the end because we went to the enemy spawn at one point. We just started capping a flag off them, got it to neutral flag, but at that same time we had 2 other people at B dom, and we started capping both flags at the same time, and the enemies just fell apart. When it got to that stage, they didn't know what to do. They didn't go for A or anything like that. They tried to go for one flag, and that ended up giving them the loss because we had 3 flags at one point, just getting a lot more points than the enemy did. and we held that down for a good minute. So, you know, things like that, making plays, being able to see and know where enemies are. Once you've been playing Call of Duty for a long time, especially in Ghosts, you know, you get an idea of where enemies are, you get an idea of rushing patterns and where people are going to be usually. On Stonehaven, you know, there's always someone up at B-Dom, there's someone in C-Dom usually. There's a couple people run around the A side, but not too many. So I like to stay around the B and C-Dom area, like this portion of the map where I'm at now, and stay around there. I know enemies spawn in the back corner and can get out to that little section, so I waited for that guy, and they can spawn in the archway, so you'll see me kill a fair few people out of there. And that's just from knowing where the enemies spawn and where they're going to come from. You know, things like that help you in your games to keep streaks. Now, accuracy, that's second point to becoming a generally good FPS player. You know, most people's accuracy is alright, but it's not on point every time. My accuracy, personally, I think I have like roughly a 30% accuracy in games overall. And you know, that's from just making my shots count. Usually in Call of Duty Ghosts, or like Black Ops 2 and whatnot, I'd take a bullet on occasion before I'd start shooting at an enemy, because I know that first bullet kicks up and I'll usually lose a gunfight when my kick's that high. So I like to keep it down. I usually place my shots around the chest area, I don't go too low. And most times I like to get up high and get those little damage hitbox multipliers that they have in games, but that's like a whole different topic that I might do a video on. But accuracy is a big thing, and it really just comes down to coordination and, you know, practicing shots. I don't know if like anybody I know does this, but there was a stage in Black Ops 2 where I gave up on the game. Like, I stopped playing it for 3 months because League play was getting a bit old, playing it 2 months straight, and then I was max level and everything else. So I went on to other games and played them on the hardest difficulty, games like Killzone 3 back in the day and whatnot. And, you know, I played them on the hardest difficulty where you die really quickly if you're not, you know, careful about everything you're doing. And I went into there and just practiced all these different shots to, you know, because in Call of Duty, you know, there's casual places that you aim a lot. There's long shots, there's medium shots, and mostly medium to long range shooting in Ghosts, but you know, the shots are always the same. You're always shooting from, you know, a roughly flat area, you're not shooting too vertically. So I went into games where they got a lot more verticality and a lot more cover-based games. So I went into those games and, you know, I started practicing all these different shots. And when I came back to Call of Duty, I just started melting everyone because I was used to aiming up really high and killing someone, then jumping around a corner and getting another guy from a flat aim. So, you know, things like that can help. You got to practice shooting at every distance, every range, every sort of shot, from like when you're shooting downhill to shooting uphill. Things like that improve your accuracy, and also it's just a reaction time as well. I mean, I've got a fairly decent reaction time in kill cams. You'll notice it a lot. It's a 0.5 or a 0.4 reaction time I have when it's really slowed down. And if you have a really quick reaction time, you can get on top of the enemy. You can start shooting first, get an accurate shot than the enemy does. I've been playing a lot of Killzone Shadowfall multiplayer lately, and I've noticed that people just can't aim in that game. And it costs them a lot of kills because, you know, they can't aim straight, and I always get my shots on before they do. So things like that, just practice shooting at people, practice your reaction time, and practice when you pull up a gun, like practice getting it directly on the guy before you start shooting. Like there, that nice little 5-man feed. My shots were pretty accurate, and every time I pulled up the gun, it was relatively close to the enemy. That's what I think will improve most people's accuracy in games. You know, I don't like to give tips too much because tips really don't help you. It's just experience, practice grinding games, practice shooting, practice your reaction time. But other than that, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope, you know, my insight onto this helps people. And I'll see you guys in the next part on my opinions to how to be better in an FPS game.